And there's no doubt in my mind that these two characters are soulmates.
Definitely my least favorite book I've ever read. I've never wanted to be a trad wife. You won't catch me making sourdough ever. Hey everyone, well, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maddie, and in today's reading vlog, we are going to be reading new releases for a week. I just finished filming my Spooky Girl Spring reading vlog where I read all thrillers or witchy reads for a week. And now I'm definitely in the mood for something lighthearted and definitely something that has romance in it. So the first book we'll be picking up is The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez. This came out in the beginning of March, and I have heard very different opinions since its release. People are obviously either loving it or hating it, and I need to see what the hype's all about. The Night We Met follows Larissa, who currently has a boyfriend named Mike. But Larissa starts developing feelings for her boyfriend's best friend, Chris. Yeah, this is going to be messy, and I'm personally super excited for that. I just hope that this is not a cheating trope, which I feel like it kind of is going to be. Let's get into it. I'll let you know my initial thoughts. I wanted messy, and I got it. I don't even know where to begin. I always say I don't have much to say, and then I ramble for 5 minutes, but my thoughts are, I think I'm leaning towards the majority of people that don't like this book. It is just starting to make me irrationally angry, but I have to say it's easy to fly through. I started this 2 nights ago. The first night I read 20 pages, and then yesterday I read until 2:15, and just this morning I'm now on page 300. So it's easy to get into. Writing is simple enough, and yeah, the storyline is interesting. It's just too much. It's too messy. And I feel like Abby Jimenez definitely has a pattern of doing this where the main characters can't just be going through one huge life event. They have to be going through every single thing in the world. The main characters in her last 2 books are always reaching rock bottom. And then they do hit rock bottom, and then everything's okay and the story ends. And I fear that's where we are right now. Both of our characters just hit rock bottom. All 3 of our characters. And don't get me wrong, I like when there are deeper, more emotional elements in a story, but I can only take so much. Sometimes I do want to escape. And we can't just have a disaster every single chapter. And it feels like that's what's happening here. And I know for a fact I felt that way when I read Say You'll Remember Me. But so far, I'm liking Say You'll Remember Me more than The Night We Met. It's just always something. And I don't know how this is going to wrap up. I really don't have a clue. I wanted this to be a really cut and dry situation where Mike cheated on her and then she can start dating her boyfriend's best friend, Chris, but it is not. It is so complicated, in fact, that I don't know how everyone's gonna move on from this. As annoying as Mike is, he's going through his own things too, and so I feel like we can't just write him out of the story completely. He's always gonna be there. He's always in the friend group, and even if he figures his life out and gets help, he's never gonna forgive Chris. I'll definitely finish this today and let you guys know my final thoughts. Can you tell I'm at a loss for words? This is not how I thought this was going to go. For some reason, I thought I was going to love this book. Take me back to early Abby Jimenez. Take me back to Yours Truly and Part of Your World. Those aren't even her earliest books, but those 2 books, perfection. Maybe I'll just reread those and stop reading her new releases. Bye-bye. I finished The Night We Met, and just as I suspected, it was an enjoyable time. It was an okay time for the most part, but I will never think about this book again, and this is definitely my least favorite book I've ever read by Abby Jimenez. I would give it 2.5 stars. I was gonna say, it's not like there was anything really wrong with it. It also just wasn't memorable, but I did have some problems with it. I don't know, the ending kind of wrapped up better than I thought it would. So there's that. But the whole time, Larissa was with her boyfriend that becomes her ex-boyfriend. And that's not a spoiler. I mean, this is literally boyfriend's best friend trope. But we barely got to see, okay, that's a lie. We did get to see our two main characters together a lot. But at the time that they were together, she was still dating her other boyfriend, so it was emotional cheating. Like, why did she even want to date Mike from the start? She was telling her friend Lexi early on that she didn't feel fireworks for him and that her feelings were lukewarm. So then why did you guys start dating? They weren't even dating at the time that she ran into Chris again, but then they did start dating. And then Mike was like, oh, I love you. And then Mike was like, let's move in together. And she didn't want to do any of those things, but then she continued to do it. And Chris was enabling Mike the whole time. I feel like the whole friend group was. And that was a big part of the problem. And I think even in the book, it talked about how there is a fine line between helping someone and hurting someone. And I feel like Chris was doing everything for Mike for the longest time that he was just hurting him in the end. And I know I said earlier that Mike is going through something, but I also just never liked him from the start. And a small percentage of me wants to feel sorry for him because he's hit rock bottom, but also I don't feel that sorry. Maybe I'm a monster. Maybe just because I knew Mike wasn't going to end up with Larissa, I wanted him to be out of the picture as soon as possible. And since the whole book was about this conflict between Larissa liking her boyfriend's best friend, he just wasn't going to get out of the picture anytime soon. I'm sorry, I'm throwing names around. Mike was her boyfriend for most of the book, but then she ends up with Chris. That is not a spoiler. Literally on the back of the book. My problem with Mike was that he was a bad friend and he was a bad boyfriend. I don't think he was necessarily a bad person. I just think he had a lot of work to do. So I'll save a little bit of empathy for him. But other than that, he was just a nightmare from the start. Larissa should have cut it off early when she had the chance. Why did she let it drag on like this? I get it. It's a book. Also, I just couldn't get past the dog's name. Every time I saw the dog's name, I wanted to throw this book across the room. Not starting this video off on a very positive note. Sorry. The next book I'll be reading for this video is one that I have very high expectations for. I've seen people sobbing on the internet over this book, and my hold for it is available now from Libby. So I'm excited to form my own opinion before I keep seeing really positive things and end up overhyping this book for myself, because I do that all the time. Whenever I see just raving reviews about a book, my expectations go up to here. And then when I read it, the book doesn't match my expectations, but that's my fault. So I need to read this book before I see another positive thing about it, because I don't want that to happen, because I actually think I will really like this book based on who recommended it to me and what I've been seeing in other books it's being compared to. And that book is Into the Blue by Emma Brody. This is a tumultuous love story that takes place over a decade where they just never get the timing right. And I hope they get the timing right. I hope this is not a normal people situation. Let me get a few chapters into it and then I'll kind of explain more to y'all what's going on, because I don't think I've actually read the summary of this book. Finished a book and did not update you guys at all. Well, I technically updated you guys when I was 8% in. So let's rewind. Let me read you the summary of Into the Blue before I talk about my thoughts. And then I'll kind of explain why I didn't update you guys, because I have some excuses. In the summer of 2000, AJ Graves dreams of writing for SNL. Instead, she's stuck working in a video rental store with slim odds of escaping her Massachusetts small town and large family. Then, in walks Noah Drew,
the enigmatic and intense scion of the Drew acting dynasty. And her life changes forever. Despite wildly different upbringings, the two forge a deep cosmic bond, first as friends, then as acting partners. Until one day, Noah disappears without a word. 7 years later in New York City, AJ is shocked to find herself cast in the same intergalactic TV production as Noah. By then, a well-known Hollywood heartthrob. As their on-screen characters grow closer every day, the lines between reality and acting begin to blur. Unable to stay away from each other, AJ and Noah are forced to confront the truth of what happened years ago, and the devastating secret that will send their lives careening apart, even as fate continues to draw them together. I did not update you guys because I was having the hardest time getting into it, and I kept saying, okay, when I'm 20% into it, when I'm in part 2, when I'm 25% into it, I'll update you guys. And then in part 2, I don't know what percentage that was, I actually did get invested in it. And I actually read from 20% yesterday until 75% last night. And then I woke up this morning, finished the book. I had just over 2 hours left, finished it in one sitting. So I ended up being very invested in the story and I had to figure out what was going to happen. So that's kind of why I didn't update you guys. And I'm glad I didn't update the camera at 20% because I probably would have said that this book is boring and I'm not invested. But obviously, I ended up really enjoying it, so I would have been wrong. But I have to say, it does take a little bit to get into it and understand our characters. And AJ, the female main character, has a big family. You're thrown a lot of names in the beginning. You're trying to understand her dynamic in the family because she's a middle child. Me too. So I liked that part to her story. And then Noah's family is completely different from AJ's, but also a big family with different personalities. And then on top of that, they're talking about acting in the first part of the book and about this fake TV show that is a sci-fi show. And I'm just not a big sci-fi person. So that was also confusing to me, even though it wasn't real. So I don't know why I was trying so hard to figure it out. Have to say, give it some time. Wait until part 2. I ended up rating this book 4.5 stars. I don't think it's a 5-star read for me, and that is because of a big trope in this book. I don't even know if it's considered a trope, but it's a plot point that I've read before. And actually, a lot of my favorite books have this happening, but I don't like the way the male main character handled it. And I had to be very vague about it because honestly, I did not see that coming. That could just be a me problem though, because they definitely hinted at this and it didn't even cross my mind. I would like to say I would have handled it differently, but who knows how I would handle a situation like that. So that was kind of frustrating. Obviously from the back of the book, you guys know that there's probably going to be some back and forth in this and commitment issues because it takes place over, I think, when it comes down to it, 15 years. And so the back and forth was kind of hard to get through. And overall, I am happy with the ending, but the journey to get there, I'll tell you what, it was long. And there was good banter, good tension, and there's no doubt in my mind that these two characters are soulmates. You could tell even from when they were kids in part 1, they love each other so much, but obviously circumstances push them apart, which you'll learn if you read the book, but they deserve to be together. And so I guess you'll just have to read the book and see what ends up happening. It is a sad read, but like I said, I'm happy with the ending. I'm just talking in circles at this point. I can't even compare it to what I want to compare it to because then you guys will know. There were great quotes. I highlighted a lot on my Kindle. We had a he's not you moment. AJ said that to Noah, obviously. And then Noah asked AJ, like, did he hurt you? Or like, what did he do to you? One of those moments in a typical rom-com. Love to see those moments. We also had a lot of deeper, more emotional scenes. I just don't know some of the decisions they made. They should have been together the whole time. There, I'll say it. There was a quote near the end that AJ's sister-in-law said, love is always worth the risk. And that's how I feel about this book. That's what should have happened from the beginning. Also, I know I said the sci-fi TV show they were obsessed with in part 1 was hard to follow. It became easier to follow, you know, as the book went on and they kept talking about it, and then there were other TV shows involved. I just don't know if I care that much. I did care, and the ending involved a lot of that and a lot of acting. It was just really heavy on their careers. But there was still a lot of romance, so I can't be upset about that. It just is what it is. I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. Loved the chemistry. Loved these two characters. They were so well developed. and all of the other characters in this story were as well. Something was just missing for me, and their careers played such a big part in it, which I guess it had to, but I would have just liked to focus in on them more. And a lot of decisions were made that I would not make, but that's okay because it's a book. If you liked this book, you would also like Romantic Comedy by Curtis Sittenfeld. If you like the One of Them is Famous trope, you would like this book, which I do like that trope. And I like that they were both kind of famous. I feel like I critiqued this book really hard, even though I gave it an amazing rating, 4.5 stars. I just wanted to point out a few things that I haven't been hearing. I've only been hearing raving reviews, 5-star reviews, best book of all time. And I just don't agree with that. But that's okay because you can have your own opinion. Enough about that. Now I'm going to read Yesteryear, which is a debut novel. It's a psychological thriller. This is the summary. Natalie lives a perfect traditional lifestyle, and her followers are sick with envy. Her charming farmhouse on her working ranch is artfully cluttered, her husband is a handsome cowboy, and her homemade sourdough loaves are each more beautiful than the last. So what if there are nannies and producers and industrial-grade ovens behind the scenes? What her followers don't know won't hurt them. Then, one morning, Natalie wakes up in a strange, horrible version of reality. Her home, her husband, her children, they're all familiar, but something's off. Is this a hoax? A reality show? A test from God? Natalie knows just two things for sure. This isn't her perfect life, and she must escape by any means possible. Let's read it. Also, I promise I really enjoyed Into the Blue. I'm just tired, and I feel like I have no personality, so sorry about that. I genuinely thought my hair couldn't look worse than it did in the last clip. And here we are. I'm never letting a man cut my hair again. What is this? I didn't ask for bangs. Okay. I read half of this book between starting it yesterday and today. That's how time works. I am pretty invested. I have to say, I'm losing interest as it goes on and we're getting zero answers, but that's kind of what you always have to work with in a thriller. Things aren't going to be wrapped up until the end, but I would just like a little sprinkle of information, some clues to know that I'm in the right direction. I don't even know what could be going on in this book, to be honest. Just a quick little recap. I know I read you the summary yesterday, but basically Natalie is the perfect housewife. She cooks, she cleans, she takes care of the children, or at least she puts on a front of doing all of that for her social media followers because she has millions of followers and she's promoting this traditional housewife culture, except obviously she has a lot of help behind the scenes and her followers don't know that. She is not the one homeschooling the kids and she has 2 nannies. She is promoting this wholesome farm life, being married to a cowboy, and then one day she wakes up in 1855. So when she wakes up in 1855, she is shocked and appalled that she actually has to be a trad wife with none of the modern luxuries. No running water, no electricity, no laundry machine. She's out there scrubbing her clothes until her fingers bleed. She's using an outhouse. She's making butter from scratch without her KitchenAid mixer. When she wakes up in 1855, everything is a little bit off. I mean, as it would be, I imagine. Her family is even different. Her kids have different names. They look a little bit off. Her husband looks older. They're living in the same house, but it's old. And she definitely thinks that she is on some type of a reality TV show. She thinks that people are watching and they're filming her, and her inner monologue is hilarious. And at one point, she starts to doubt that this could be a reality TV show because she injures herself so badly and nobody comes to save her. And then she thinks to herself, well, America does hate women, so they could be in here punishing me and hurting me. And then she's fully bought back into, this is all a joke. This is reality TV. And I don't know what to believe. There have been no hints besides one little clue that it could be part of this big
joke and they're filming her to see how she would actually handle being a trad wife back in the day. But there are definitely a few plot holes that don't add up. So I'm interested to see where this goes. I honestly just feel like she's an unreliable narrator. I will not be happy if the ending is that this was all a dream and Natalie drank too much one night and she's unreliable. Could finish this tonight if I lock in. Don't know if I will lock in. Stay tuned. I finished yesterday morning, meaning I finished it in 3 days. It's a thriller, so it's one of those where you just want to keep reading so you can finally have some answers. It didn't go in the direction I thought it was going to go, but it went in the only direction that made sense for a book like this. I will say there's one plot hole that I can't find an answer to anywhere. I've been Googling, I texted my friend Elizabeth Ann. One part of this book doesn't make sense to me. Whatever. Overall, it was a good read, but I'm just a little confused about what message I'm supposed to take away from this book. Obviously, I don't want to be a trad wife. I've never wanted to be a trad wife. You won't catch me making sourdough ever. I don't know what I'm supposed to take away from this book. Like, obviously, I hate the patriarchy, duh. I guess it's kind of just a warning about internet culture. And yet again, how everything you see online is fake. I don't know much about the influencer Ballerina Farms, but that's what everybody was comparing this book to. But I think it relates more to Ruby Franke and her trial and everything that went down with her family. And I did read Sherry Franke's book about her mother, who is now in prison. It was such an interesting read, being in such an unlikable character's mind and what she's constantly worrying about and how she's still thinking about her roommate from college who did her wrong. And she always thinks she's doing so much better than her college roommate, and then the ending shows you how she's really doing. I would give this book 3 stars. It didn't completely blow my mind. And honestly, I'm just mad at all of the men in this book. Did any of the men face the consequences? I don't think so. Another point that I saw someone make on Goodreads is how Natalie was constantly worried about her followers being in her comments, leaving her hate comments, and she was always thinking about what these angry women were going to comment on her next post she had planned. And she kept referring to them as these angry women, how they're so jealous of her, and that's why they're commenting, like they're just mad that they don't have her lifestyle. And I saw someone's comment on Goodreads how it's so funny that Natalie ended up being the biggest hater of them all and being the true angry woman. I also think this book was a reminder that we do need to keep moving forward and that it's so easy to romanticize the past and this simple way of living. But come to find out, that simple way of living is not simple at all. We have these modern luxuries to save our time and make our life so much easier. And watching Natalie live in 1855 and have to do everything the long, hard way, it was exhausting. And I genuinely cannot imagine living in the past or wanting to go back to that era. I'm happy with the era I'm living in. I want to be able to scroll on TikTok and go buy bread at the store. I'm not happy about everything with this era and the people that are in charge of it. Also, I would like to live in the Regency era, that's it. Only other exception. I don't know why I'm trying to take a lot from this book. Maybe I'm not supposed to be taking away anything from this book. Maybe it's just a thriller. But I do feel like there is definitely commentary on this trad wife ideology. I don't know. It definitely reinforces the narrative that women are expected to serve and smile and be obedient, and men profit from women who go along with everything they say. But in yesteryear's case, she did everything she thought she had to do to be a good wife and a good Christian, and look how that turned out for her. There were a few quotes that I wanted to read in here that were interesting to me, and it was talking about how we're attracted to certain influencers, not because we're jealous of them or because they're annoying, but because their way of life is so addicting. And that's so true, because I often find myself following people who I have nothing in common with, and I never want to live their life. I'm just addicted to their lifestyle. The goal of an influencer is not to be lovable, and it is not to be unbearable. The goal is to be both at once. In other words, addicting. Again, rated this book 3 stars. Wanted a crazier ending, but you know what? It was a fun journey. Natalie's inner monologue was crazy, and I would definitely recommend this book, but I don't think it's worth all of the hype it's getting. I'm going to end the video here. I have to say, I went back on my rating for Into the Blue. I think I put it on the screen. I'm giving that book 4 stars. I think I wanted to really love it just because everybody else was, and I did love it, like it. 4 stars is still a good rating, but I just hated how indecisive the male main character was. And it was just very toxic. Even though they were both going through an extremely hard thing, they could have made better decisions. I had fun filming this video, and I'm so glad I knocked 3 new releases off. The new Abby Jimenez book was a bummer. Into the Blue, solid read. And then Yesteryear, another solid read. I did actually start another new release, but that will be in my next reading vlog, so make sure you're subscribed so you'll be notified when I post. I post a new bookish video every week. Hit the like button if you like me at all, and I'll see you next time. Bye!